Welcome back. I'm Pratap here. In this video, I'm generating demand and supply zones for weekly time frame and also daily time frame. Apart from that, I'm also generating demand and a supply zone chain for Nifty 50 and Nifty Bank. I will give timestamps in this video description. If anybody wants to go to a specific section, you can click on the timestamp and you can directly go to the location in this video. Please don't forget, I am giving in the video description. Let's start with supply and demand zone reports for a weekly time frame. Entry time frame is weekly. Let us find the stocks which are near to the weekly demand zone. And these 5 stocks are near to the weekly demand zone. Concur is a high liquidity zone. Lupin is also high liquidity zone. So let's go back. For entry time frame weekly, let us find the stocks which are near to the weekly supply zone. And these 14 stocks are near to the weekly supply zone. So Nifty Bank is near to the weekly supply zone, which is a fresh zone. So it's a very good zone. Canara Bank is also, but it is already pierced, so we don't look into this. I think that's it about the high liquidity zones from this list. So let's go back. For entry time frame weekly, let us find the stocks which are closed inside weekly demand zone. So this is the filtered list. It seems a good number of stocks are closed inside weekly demand zone. So 63 stocks are closed inside weekly demand zone. So let's go back. Entry time frame weekly, let us find the stocks where price closed inside weekly supply zone. Only 9 stocks are found. Some of these stocks are pierced, so you should not look into the pierced zones. So let's go back. For entry time frame weekly, let us find the tested weekly demand zones. The demand zones tested during this week. A good number of stocks are tested during this week. Even Nifty 50 tested on Thursday. This is a new weekly demand zone tested on Thursday. Now test count is changed. Even Nifty Bank tested during this week. It is also a fresh weekly demand zone, but earlier it had 2 rejections from this zone. Nifty Healthcare, Nifty Metal, Nifty Oil and Gas, Nifty Public Sector Unit Bank, Nifty next 50, all these indexes are tested during this week. All these are all weekly demand zones. Let me scroll down. The total 61 weekly demand zones are tested during this week. So let's go back. Entry time frame weekly. Let us find the tested weekly supply zones. Only one supply zone is tested during this week. Canara Bank, but it is pierced. So let's go back. Let us find the newly created weekly zones, entry time frame weekly. Let us find the stocks having newly created demand zones. So there are no newly created weekly demand zones during this week. Let's go back, entry time frame weekly. Let us find newly created supply zones during this week. Good number of supply zones or new supply zones are created during this week. Look into this. Nifty 50. A new supply zone created. And look into the zone achievement. It violated, while creating itself, it violated a demand zone. The last video we discussed about, the last training video, we discussed about zone violation and also zone freshness. Both I explained clearly with all the reasons. If anybody did not go through that video, please go through it. Nifty Bank also created a new supply zone. It is a high liquidity supply zone. Both Nifty 50 and our Bank Nifty are having high liquidity supply zones. Even this supply zone got a zone achievement while creating the zone itself. See the power of the supply zones. If a supply zone is created with zone achievement, they are tradable zones. You should not forget that. Maybe they might have got zone achievement after few candles. That is also possible. But these supply zones, while creating itself, they got the zone achievement. That means they are very powerful. And moreover, both these are all high liquidity zones. That is the power of these zones. How institutions created these zones. Even Nifty Financial Services, it got a zone achievement. And see the type, it is C_Z high liquidity. I already told you. Quarterly, monthly, they are very strong. Weekly also, at some extent, it is a very strong high liquidity zone. It is stronger than R_SZ or S_DZ on quarterly, monthly, and weekly time frames. Even Nifty also, a new supply zone is created, but it did not get the zone achievement. That means still we don't have clarity on this whether to trade or not until it gets a zone achievement. All these points I explained in the recent video. How zone achievement should be used for the trading purpose. Nifty Healthcare, a new supply zone is created. It is also not having zone achievement. Nifty IT, a new supply zone is created. It got a zone achievement. It is a counter trend trade setup related zone. It is a weekly zone. Nifty IT got zone achievement while creating itself. That means they are all powerful zones. How institutions are setting up. Friday market looks extraordinary, but see how institutions are trying to trap us by creating these new zones while creating itself, they are all getting zone achievements. Nifty Media. Nifty Metal, Nifty Pharma, Nifty Private Bank. All these supply zones are created during this week. Apart from the many stocks, please look into this list. I am scrolling down. So total 56 supply zones, weekly supply zones created during this week. So this is about the filtered list. Let me generate demand and supply zones for all the stocks on a weekly time frame for our reference purpose. Entry time frame is weekly. I'm generating demand and supply zones for all the stocks and indices. For the first 17 in this list are indices. After that you have stocks. So I will keep on scrolling this list. Whichever the stock you want to refer, there you please pause the video and you can study parameters for that stock. So this is the complete list of all the stocks having a weekly demand and supply zones. So this is the end of the report for weekly zones. Now let's move on to the daily zones. Let us generate demand and supply zones for the daily time frame. So entry time frame is daily. Let us find the stocks which are near to the daily demand zone. So these 10 stocks are filtered where price is near to the daily demand zone. You have Dr. Reddy high liquidity zone is there. It is tested once. And Kotak Bank is also there. It is already tested 11 times and 11 rejections. My God. And next we have Ramco Cement. It is a fresh zone. So this is about the list high liquidity demand zones. So let's go back. For entry time frame daily, let us find the stocks which are near to the daily supply zone. So this is the filtered list. 7 stocks are filtered. We have one stock filtered, that is HDFC AMC, which is a fresh zone, but it is already having a rejection. That means lower time frame you can see a test from this zone. Oh, it is a counter trend trade setup. When it is created on 26th, wow, those who got this trade, it's perfect. They would have got excellent. Actually, we need such kind of stocks. A counter trend trade stocks soon after it created. If it is if the price is entered into that, mostly we get a huge success. If you look into the zone low, which is the entry, that is 2779 and 2752. That means more than 1% return has given during the intraday. Excellent return. Okay. So only one high liquidity zone is there. And the next one is, let's go back. Entry time frame daily. Let us find the stocks which are closed inside daily demand zone. So this is the filtered list. And we have a big list from this. Let me scroll down. The total 47 stocks closed inside daily sub demand zones. Daily demand zones. So let's go back. Entry time frame is daily. Let us find the stocks where price closed inside daily supply zone. This is the filtered list. So 21 stocks are closed inside daily supply zones. So let's go back. For entry time frame daily, let us find the tested daily demand zones. So no demand zones tested. Let's go back and for entry time frame daily, let us find the tested supply zones, daily supply zones. So total 23 supply zones tested. So let's go back for entry time frame daily. Let us find the newly created daily demand zones. So 14 demand zones created on this Friday. So let's go back. Entry time frame daily. Let us find the newly created supply zones. So no supply zones created on Friday. So this is about the filtered list. Now let me generate demand and supply zones for all the stocks on daily time frame for our further reference. So entry time frame daily, I'm generating demand and supply zones for all the stocks. I will keep on scrolling this list. So whichever the stock you want to refer, please pause the video and you can study the parameters. This is the complete list of all the stocks on daily time frame. Now let's move on to the supply demand zone chain for Nifty and Bank Nifty. So let us generate supply demand zone chain for Nifty 50 and Nifty Bank. So let me start with Nifty 50. But even before that, why this supply demand zone chain is useful? Because some people can say, I can scan all the zones by looking into the chart. Their eyes can scan all the stocks. It's true because they are experienced a lot. But the problem is their eyes cannot scan high liquidity zones. High liquidity zones are identified based on some typical software algorithms. That means highly complex software algorithms are identified. They helped in identifying high liquidity zones. So demand supply zone chain is useful for finding the high liquidity zones. That is from our current demand and supply zone, just above, are there any high liquidity supply zones? Or below our demand zone, are there any high liquidity demand zones? Because mostly prices will tend to move towards the high liquidity zones. Normal zones may break easily, but it's not easy to break high liquidity zones. Multiple tests are required in general, at least 90% scenarios. Only 10% scenarios we can see failure in high liquidity zones. So this supply demand zone chain is useful because this is a stock specific. I cannot generate supply demand zone chain for all the stocks. So I have selected Nifty and Bank Nifty because most of us are trading in Nifty and Bank Nifty. And how best you have to make use by looking into this supply and demand zone chain, that I explained clearly in the previous video. Go to this NeoStock homepage. Go to the NeoStock YouTube channel. You can click on the home and then scroll down to the last end of this page. Here there is a Nifty, Bank Nifty supply demand zone chain playlist. In this playlist, one video is available. This is almost 1 hour video. In this video, the first probably the 45 minutes or maybe 50 minutes, I have given a detailed explanation about how to make use of these high liquidity zones. So please go through it. Whatever the points I told you or whatever the strategies I explained, everything you will understand in that video. Because I cannot explain the same thing again and again, because I may not be taking just next 5 or 10 minutes, not more than that, for generating this list. But you please go through this video, understand how best you can use this supply demand zone chain, the strategies I explained in this video, understand them, then make use of this latest report. Latest report may not be not more than 5 or 10 minutes, because we are focusing only on 2 stocks, indices. So let's start with Nifty 50. Because we are doing top-down analysis, let me start with the monthly time frame. Quarterly also we can go, but prices are all far away from this. I don't think it is prices easy to reach into this zone. So I am omitting. Look into monthly. Monthly itself far away for the current price. But let us start our analysis. It is a top-down analysis. I am showing from monthly time frame till 5 minutes time frame. All the zones I will be showing. So we are selecting the supply demand zone chain. So this is the total list of stocks. There is no supply zone for monthly time frame. The existing zone itself is a pierced zone. The demand zone. At what price level it is there? At 15,962 is the zone high and 15,450 is the zone low. Even below that, maybe next time if prices get into this level, because it is pierced, maybe it will go to the demand zone below this latest. This is the first one is the latest one. The below one is the next 1533. In case due to any reason, in case if something happened, if prices goes to this high liquidity demand zone, you must you must buy in this demand zone, because the high liquidity demand zone having the type C underscore DZ and monthly time frame is having the capacity to hold the prices. Mostly 90% scenarios or even above 90% scenarios, it don't let the prices go below this demand zone. Probably the trend will be changed from here. I'll show you this one example for Nifty Bank. Already we have on a high liquidity zone. You will understand how it changed the market direction for multiple times. But let us don't hope that the prices should come to this level. But in case any reason. But anyway, now at present the price is at 19,047. But the immediately available pierced monthly demand zone is at 15,962. Almost 3,000 points there is a difference from this current price level. So we need not worry about at this point of time. So we should shift our focus to weekly zones. So let's go back. Now I am selecting the time frame as a weekly, and we are generating a supply demand zone chain. So this is the list of all the supply and demand zones on weekly time frame for Nifty 50. The time frame is weekly. And you can also look into the trend. Weekly trend is changed recently because a weekly demand zone is broken during this week. During this week, one weekly demand zone is broken. Who broke the weekly demand zone? This supply zone broke the weekly demand zone. It is the responsible. That is what I explained in the recent training session, zone achievement. Because the supply zone is responsible for breaking the weekly, the recent zone. And moreover, this is a counter trends setup, high liquidity zone. And during this week, after breaking the demand zone, prices reached the next demand zone. This is the next demand zone. Now this is going to be the most recent demand zone. Prices on Thursday, prices entered into this demand zone. From there, there is some push. That is what we have seen on Friday. The pending orders in this demand zone pushed the price on Friday. But how long it can push, we don't know. But if prices reach it to the supply zone, we must go for a short trade, because such a powerful this zone is going to be. So these two are the most recent the most recent demand and supply zones. Just below this demand zone, there is a high liquidity demand zone. At what price level? At 16,248. If due to any reason this 18,000 is broken, probably the next weekly is at 16,000, which is a high liquidity fresh zone, and it is having the capability to push the prices at some decent extent. I'm not saying it is going to change the market direction. You should not forget this high liquidity zone is at weekly. Monthly and quarterly are having these C underscore high liquidity zones are having capacity to change the price direction. But in this weekly time frame, at least it can push the prices up at some decent extent. So now let's go back to the next time frame. Let's go back and select the next time frame, that is a daily. So far we have looked into the zones for monthly time frame and weekly. Now we are looking into the daily time frame for Nifty 50. Let me generate the chain. So this is the supply demand zone chain on daily time frame for Nifty 50. And look into the trend. Daily trend is a downtrend. Weekly trend is changed to sideways. But still monthly trend is uptrend. So what is the most recent supply and demand zone? At number 3 and number 2 and 3. These two are recent. But we have a high liquidity supply zone just above the recent supply zone. Now there is a high liquidity demand zone on daily time frame, which is tested 0 times, and this high liquidity demand zone is inside the weekly demand zone. Just now we have seen prices tested the weekly demand zone. Inside that weekly demand zone, this daily demand zone is there. If daily demand zone is there inside the weekly demand zone, the name of that concept is zone confluence. So that means this daily demand zone is having confluence with weekly demand zone. So there are higher chances of prices reaching to this zone probably during this week or next week. We don't know. We have to see how fast market is going to change during this week. But the risk of this zone is very minimal. Look into the risk of this high liquidity zone, it is only 0.4%. Probably it could be a manageable risk, or you can fine tune inside if you feel it is high risk. So keep an eye on this zone because prices are now nearing to this. So what is the zone high? 18,722. What is the current close? 19,047. So how many points difference? Probably around 300 points. You can expect easily a 300 points fall in the market. So that means now very near to the prices are very near to the high liquidity demand zone, but you should not forget this is C underscore DZ. C underscore DZ on daily time frame is having lower priority than our support demand zone. You should not forget that point. On daily time frame, C underscore DZ is only a second priority high liquidity demand zone. But it is a fresh zone, and moreover, it is inside the weekly demand zone. You can give probably the priority can be increased. I'm hoping for that. Now let's move on to the next time frame, that is 125 minutes time frame. So let us generate demand and supply zone chain for 125 minutes time frame. Now, where is the nearest demand zone? At 7. 6 is the nearest supply zone. So let me mark. So these two are the nearest, but at present they are not having any high liquidity types. And moreover, the current demand zone is not having any zone achievement. But just below that, it is having high liquidity type C underscore DZ. C underscore DZ priority will be decreased when we reduce the time frames. C underscore DZ is having very good priority and quarterly and monthly. Weekly also at some extent it is a very good priority. Very good means better than our support and resistance high liquidity zones. But its priority is going down from daily time frame and below. That is one point you have to remember. But otherwise, it is better than the normal demand zone and supply zones. We should not forget that. So look into, there are some high liquidity zones above this supply zone, and also we have high liquidity, we have good high liquidity, that is our support demand zone is only at 16. The number 16 is the high liquidity, that is at what price level? At 17,875. So far below the current price levels. The current one is 19,000. Okay, let's go back and change the time frame. Let's go to the next time frame, that is 75 minutes. Let me generate the chain. This is at the 75 minutes level. What is the nearest demand zone here? Here 8 is the nearest and 7 is the nearest supply zone. So 7 and 8 in this list. We have high liquidity zones below this and high liquidity supply zones above that. Keep a focus on them. I already explained the technique in that previous video. Go through them. In general, mostly the prices will be moving between high liquidity demand and supply zones. If you are looking into the lower time frames, you get better clarity, at least short-term movement, price movement, what might happen about the short-term price movement, you get clarity. If you are looking to higher time frames, probably the long-term price movement or medium-term price movements, you will be able to see at higher time frames. So this is at 75 minutes level. Always look for what is the nearest high liquidity zone, supply zone, and nearest high liquidity demand zone. That way you can compare. Based on that, you will get a clarity about the ranges, the price movement. So let's go back to the next time frame. Let's move on to the next time frame. So the next one is 25 minutes time frame. Let me generate 25 minutes chain. So what is the nearest supply zone and demand zone here? 10 and 11. The rows 10 and 11. These two are the nearest supply zone and demand zone. Are they pierced? No. You should not forget to focus. You should always keep an eye on this column, pierced. If a zone is pierced, it is an opportunity for you. Prices next time will easily go through this zone, and it will reach the next level zone in this chain. That way, pierced zones will be helpful to you. At least you can expect a decent target. Now the price is between these two zones. Now that is what you have to understand. Your current price is 1960, but here the demand zone high and supply zone low. That is 19,102 and 18,829. Now price currently it is moving between these two zones. But this supply zone is not a high liquidity zone. We have a resistant supply zone, a fresh zone. That could be the next target. That is the way we can think. And always keep an eye on these trends also. So let me go back. Now change the time frame to 15 minutes. Let me generate the chain for 15 minutes. So this is the 15 minutes chain. What is the nearest supply zone and demand zone? The rows 15 and 16. 18th we have a high liquidity zone, support demand zone. And 11th we have a support supply zone. So you can expect a movement of your price between these two zones. See how this 11th one, already it is tested 4 times. It is not a daily zone. This is a 25-minute zone. 25-minute zone is holding the prices. See what is the risk? It is just 0.1% is the risk. 0.1% of your Nifty. What is 0.1%? Is it 19 points? Okay. Now let's go back. Change the time frame to 5 minutes. The last. So let me generate the chain, supply demand zone chain for 5 minutes time frame and look into the trends. 5 minutes trend. And this is 15 minutes trend. And this is 75 minutes trend. So what is the nearest demand zone, supply zone and demand zone? That is 26 and 27. Yeah. 25 and 26. 25 is the supply zone and 26 is the demand zone, but this demand zone is already pierced. But we have a support demand zone at 28. So we can expect some support. It is already tested 2 times. What is the percentage? What is the risk here? 0.66%. 0.66, no? 0.06%. This is what I'm wondering. 0.66. How can such a huge percentage on 5 minutes time frame? I'm wondering. 0.06%. Very small percent. So this demand zone is holding. It is holding the prices. So keep an eye on 28. If 28 is broken, say the next one, the next support demand zone is at 38. That is 18,070, 702. Always give importance to support demand zone, resistance, supply zones on lower time frames. Don't give much priority to other, don't give much importance to other high liquidity zones. C underscore DZ, maybe they may work, but the priority is very less. Probably it might come down to some below 60% or around 60% when the time frames are going down. So always trust support demand zone and resistance supply zones in lower time frames. So this is about supply demand zone chain for Nifty 50. Now we will generate supply demand zone chain for Nifty Bank. So we are doing top-down analysis. Let us start with monthly time frame. Why I'm not selecting yearly, half yearly is they are far, far away. I don't think. Even monthly itself is far away. So that's why I have taken this as a reference. What is the price? 42,782. There are no supply zones, monthly time frame. We have only demand zone. It is a high liquidity demand zone at 32,842. How many times it is tested? 2 times. How many rejections it gave? 4 rejections. That means already 4 times prices entered into this zone. That means none of these things are able to break this zone. Each time price entered into this zone, high liquidity zone, it changed the market direction. Now what is the time, what is the trend on monthly time frame? Uptrend. How much push it has given from its last test? What was the price? 32,842. What is that? 42,782. It is more than 10,000 points push from its last test from this zone. That's why this C underscore DZ high liquidity zone type is having highest priority on monthly time frames, weekly time frame, quarterly time frame. I'm not saying they won't fail. They will also fail. But chances are less. That's why I'm saying these high liquidity zones are having more than 80 to 90% success rate on monthly time frame. Okay. Now anyway, our prices are nearly 10,000 points difference from this zone. So we need not worry at this point about this monthly. Let's look into weekly. Where is our price with respect to the weekly zone? Let me go back and changing the time frame to weekly. For Nifty Bank, let us generate supply demand zone chain. So this is weekly time frame for Nifty Bank. So the weekly trend is sideways. Recently changed the trend. This zone is created. Which zone? High liquidity supply zone. Weekly resistance supply zone. A fresh zone is created. When it is created? During this week. Because the starting of this week is 23/10/2023. The candle opened on this day. So this week only the supply zone is created. How it created? It created in such a way, it broke its nearest demand zone. That's why it got the zone achievement. VOZ, violated opposing zone. I clearly explained in our latest video. Because it got the zone achievement, it is a tradable zone. You may say there is strength is it is showing null. Null indicates it is in progress. Purposefully I kept this word null. It is a programming language word, but still I am keeping in the reports because I want to know. It is in progress because it is a fresh zone. After 1 week only the strength will be confirmed. That is what we discussed in the previous session. Yesterday's training session about zone strength. The follow-through candles are important. Okay, anyway, this is not important here. Zone achievement is important, much important. And high liquidity is even more important. high liquidity zone having zone achievement, it got the maximum power. Okay, because it got the maximum power, next time when prices get into these high liquidity zones, definitely we can go for a short trades. But you need to manage your risk, you need to fine tune at lower time frames. You should not forget that point. Because this zone is already having 3.16% risk. Can we manage that much risk? No. Our risk management is hardly at less than 1% level or 0.5%, 0.3%. So you have to fine tune at lower time frames. So this is the recent supply zone. What is the recent demand zone? This is the one, second one. Currently this report, weekly report, is having only one supply zone. And on Friday, this zone is tested. We have a next supporting demand zone, 39,000. 39,608. It is already tested 3 times, 3 rejections. How it holded the prices? Even below that, there is one more supporting. That is also tested 2 times. So we can expect sometime prices will move between this resistance supply zone and a support demand zone. Between 1 and 4, the price levels, probably we can expect some play. If fourth one is broken, then again still fifth one is also another high liquidity zone. It is also tested 2 times, gave 4 rejections and able to hold. And this is at 38,000 level, this is at 39,000 level. So both these levels are near to this 42,000 level. So keep an eye on these levels. So let's go back and change the time frame to daily. Let us generate a chain for daily time frame. So what is the nearest demand and supply zones on daily time frame? 5th and 6th. These two are nearest demand and supply zones. Both are not pierced. It is already holded the prices 2 times, this demand zone. But just above the fourth one, there is a high liquidity supply zone. At 44,444. This is 41,009. Sorry, we have to see demand zone high and supply zone low. This is 42,500. This is 44,044. So probably you can expect a movement between these 4 and 6. The rows 4 and 6. Fourth one is a resistance supply zone and the sixth one is a C underscore DZ high liquidity zone. But the point we should understand, daily time frame trend is sideways, weekly is also sideways, but monthly is still uptrend. So let's go back. Let me change the time frame to 125 minutes. Let me generate the chain. So this is the supply demand zone chain for 125 minutes time frame for Nifty Bank. Where are the nearest demand and supply zones? 10 and 11, rows 10 and 11. At present, these are our nearest. Is there any pierced zones? No. This demand zone is not having zone achievement. If it is not having zone achievement, it can be broken easily. That possibility is there. But below that we have at 12, we have a S underscore DZ, that is support demand zone. So you can keep an eye on this 12th one. And you have a resistance at 8th one. Probably you can expect a price movement between the row 8 and the row 12. But 12 is already a support demand zone. It is already tested 2 times. So this is 125 minutes. Let's move on to 75 minutes. Let us generate the chain for 75 minutes time frame. Where are the nearest demand zone and supply zones for 75 minutes? That is 11 and 12. Sixteen we have a support demand zone. 11th we have, but 11th is C underscore SZ. Maybe, I don't know, because its priority E will come down. I don't know how many times it can hold. But is there any 7th we have a resistance supply zone? It is already holded for 4 times. Even just above that there is one more resistance supply zone, and it gave 5 tests. All these resistance supply zones are working. So 16th is the most recent high liquidity demand zone, 16th. So keep an eye on these zones. Now let's move on to the next time frame. Next time frame, 25 minutes time frame. Yeah. So let us generate demand and supply zone chain for 25 minutes time frame. I'm generating the demand and supply zone chain on 25 minutes time frame. What are the nearest demand zone and supply zones here? 14th and 15th. 14th and 15th we have, but 15th is already pierced. But 16th we have a fresh zone, but it gave 3 rejections already. So focus on 14 and 16, a price movement between the row 14 and 16. Look into those values. Now let's go back and we will generate for the time frame 15 minutes. So what are the nearest demand and supply zones? And 20 and 21, row 20 and 21. Row 21 is a support demand zone, it is a fresh, and the nearest resistance supply zone is at row 18. You can expect a price movement at 15 minutes. Remember, when time frames are going down, you have to restrict the movement with respect to the time frames. If it is a daily, it can hold for few days. If it is a 15 minutes, you cannot expect for a long term, for prices should hold for a long term. But it will give you for a short period, it can hold. 21, 22, 23, all three are high liquidity demand zones. So that means within this level there is a lot of pending orders are there in these areas. That way you can understand. Okay, next let's move on to the next time frame, the last time frame, 5 minutes. So let me generate the chain. So what is the nearest demand zone and supply zone? That is 28 and 29. 28 is the nearest supply zone, 29 we have nearest demand zone. But where are the nearest high liquidity zones? We have 28 is the nearest, 28 the most recent one is the already it is tested 3 times and holding the prices. But demand zone we have 36. 36 is having a most recent demand zone. So you have to focus between 28 and 36. Probably you can move. We can expect a movement of the prices between the zone at row 36. This is the one, and the most recent one is a high liquidity zone, even above next two. That is row 27 and 26. They are also high liquidity zones. Moreover, row 26 high liquidity zone is a fresh zone. So we can focus the price movement between these zones. So this is about 5 minutes time level. And don't forget to focus on how to deal with supply demand zone chain by looking at the video, the last video I have published as I recommended. First you go through that video, understand the uses of this supply demand zone chain, and then with the help of these zones find the ranges. Mostly these high liquidity zones will help you the possible ranges, the price movement between these ranges. Hope this information is helpful to you. So let us all meet again in our next video. Thank you.